Hey there, future networker gurus. We're diving deep into Module 5 today. And trust me, this one's a game changer, really.
Yeah, for sure.
It's all about getting you fluent, like really fluent in the language of DellEMC networker.
Yeah.
We're not just going to be like throwing definitions at you.
No.
We're going to go deep into the why and the how so you can actually use this stuff.
Exactly. Think of it, this module, as your networker decoder ring.
Oh, that's a...
We're going to unpack the history, the core functions,
Yeah.
even the architecture,
Yeah.
and all of that with the goal of, not just helping you pass that certification exam,
Right.
but to really excel in the real world of data protection.
So, crack open Module 5. Let's get started with Lesson 1, Networker Origin and Positioning.
Okay.
You wouldn't believe this thing. It's been around since 1990.
Oh,
It's like the data protection dinosaur that just, won't quit.
that's amazing.
And for good reason, though.
Right. That's true. It's that staying power comes from its roots,
Yep.
Back in the Unix world,
Mm-hmm.
built on a foundation of C and assembler, this thing is lean, mean.
Wow.
It can handle thousands of clients without breaking a sweat.
Which is good,
Yeah, it's important.
because in the world of enterprise data protection, you are playing in the big leagues.
Yeah.
We're talking going head-to-head with giants like
Well, there's...
HPE Data Protector, Commvault,
Yes.
IBM Tivoli Storage Manager,
Oh, yeah.
Veritas Net Backup.
Big names.
It's a whole different ballgame.
This is where things get interesting. It's high stakes,
Mhm.
Data loss can mean millions.
Yeah,
And the reputation damage, it's hard to come back from.
it's true.
That's why, understanding networker strengths,
Right?
it's crucial. It's so important.
All right, so Lesson 2 jumps right into those strengths with the 5 key functions of networker. Backup and archive, recover and restore, replication management, cloning and staging,
Okay.
and tracking, reporting, and aging.
Lots to cover.
Let's break those down a little bit.
Starting with backup and archive.
Okay.
It's tempting to kind of lump those together, but they're distinct animals, different purposes, really.
Yeah,
So backup is like your safety net.
I like that.
It's a copy of your data. Original still intact, ready to go if something goes wrong.
Right.
Just your everyday protection.
So if you accidentally delete a file
Exactly.
or a virus just wreaks havoc,
Yep,
backup's got your back.
it does.
But what about archive?
Archive is more like your long-term memory. It's a non-writable, non-erasable copy. And oftentimes the original is deleted from production.
Interesting.
So, think regulatory compliance, long-term data retention.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about that day-to-day access.
right.
It's about preserving data for the long haul.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Makes sense. Now, Lesson 2 doesn't stop there. It ties into the next function, which is recover and restore, which seems pretty straightforward, I think.
Yeah,
But there's some nuances here, right?
absolutely. Recovery can be as simple as, grabbing a file from a specific point in time.
Yeah.
Super handy for those oops moments.
Yeah, we've all been there.
But it can also be, a full-blown bare metal restore.
Oh, wow.
Imagine your server just crashes and burns.
Oh, no.
This is where you would rebuild the entire OS from scratch.
From scratch. Wow.
Hmm.
Okay, so recovery is like having a time machine and a Phoenix down
That's a great way to put it.
for your servers.
Yeah.
But what about when you need more than just a single point-in-time copy
Right.
into replication management?
Yes. This is where things get really strategic.
Yeah.
We're talking snapshots, which freeze your data in time.
Oh, cool.
Local replication for copies within your data center.
Okay.
And remote replication for that extra layer of protection in a geographically separate location.
So you've got your bases covered,
Yeah.
and Networker uses some serious tech to make this happen. Protect point and recover point.
Uh-huh.
It's like having an army of data guardians working behind the scenes.
Exactly. It's all about ensuring that your data is always accessible, no matter what chaos is happening in the universe.
Oh, my gosh.
But even with all these copies, things can get kind of messy, right?
Yeah, I bet.
That's where cloning and staging come in.
I'll admit, these two always trip me up.
Oh, really?
What's the difference again?
Think of it this way. Cloning is making a copy of your backup, archive, or snapshot on a different volume.
Okay.
Perfect for testing, development, or even just that extra backup for peace of mind.
Oh, okay.
Staging is like moving your backup data to a different volume. Maybe you need to free up some space or move data to a cheaper storage tier.
Ah, smart.
Right.
So cloning is multiplying, staging is migrating. I like that. But how do you keep track of all this data chaos?
Oh, yeah. Good question.
That's where tracking, reporting, and aging come in to save the day.
Right. You got it. Networkers like your meticulous data librarian, it's maintaining an inventory of all your backups, generates reports so you know what's what,
Yeah.
and even automatically removes those old copies that have reached their expiration date.
Oh, that's great. That's a relief.
Oh,
Imagine having to manually track all that. Okay, we've covered the what,
right.
but let's get into the how. With lesson 3, high-level architecture. We're talking daemons, databases,
Okay.
and like all the behind-the-scenes magic.
Mm-hmm.
So, you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay, good.
Let's go.
Because we're moving beyond like the old school server client storage node view, right?
Right.
Think of it as tiers of nodes and specialized servers,
Okay.
each with its own role to play.
Like an orchestra.
Yes, in the data protection orchestra.
I love that. And at the heart of this orchestra, you have the networker daemons. These are the unsung heroes, tirelessly working behind the scenes. So let's start with the client daemon.
Okay.
Nstrext. Think of it as the client's personal assistant.
Okay.
Handling those remote execution requests and making sure that the communication is secure.
Right.
Using SSL/TLS and those fancy mutual certificate-based authentications.
So it's like the VIP security detail for data transfer.
That's a good way to put it.
But what about on the storage node side?
Okay.
I remember those 3 daemons. NSR-TMB, NSR-MMD, and NSR-LCPD. What are they up to?
Okay, so think of them as the storage node's management team.
Oh, yeah.
So NSRMD is the delegator, handles those remote execution requests.
Okay.
NSRMD is the data organizer, manages all that backup data, keeps track of where everything goes. And then there's NSR-LCPD, the librarian,
Right.
controls access to those library resources. And remember, you'll have at least one NSRMD
Okay.
for every device you've got enabled.
So it's like a well-oiled machine over there.
Yeah.
On the storage node. But the real brains of the operation, the conductor of this whole orchestra.
Yeah, that's the server, right?
Absolutely. And the server's got its own team of demons,
Of course.
keeping things running smoothly. So NS1 is the head honcho, starts all the other demons, manages the resource database, basically calls all the shots.
Wow, busy guy.
Yeah.
And then there's NSRM and GD, handling all the library operations. NSRM and DBD, keeping the media database in check. NSR index, managing that client file index for granular recovery.
Yeah.
And NSR's job, coordinating all those jobs, gathering all those important statistics.
It's a lot of moving parts, but they all work together seamlessly
Yeah.
to make sure your data is protected and recoverable.
And what about the NFC console server?
Okay.
It's got its own team of demons too, right?
You bet. So we've got GSTD, the starter upper, I guess you would say, for all the other console demons.
Right.
HTTPD, the web server, making sure everything's accessible, and DBSRv9, the powerhouse application server,
Oh, wow.
running PostgreSQL. It's a whole ecosystem of demons,
It is.
each playing a critical role
Mm-hmm.
in Networker's functionality.
Absolutely. But let's not forget about the databases.
Right.
These are the repositories of knowledge that keep networkers running smoothly.
Right. Lesson 3 breaks down those 4 key databases. The resource database, WestDB, media management database, MM, client file index, CFI, and the jobs database, JobsD.
Okay, so the resource database is like the master directory.
Yeah.
Contains all the information about your data zone resources.
Correct.
It's hierarchical structure, but thankfully it's pretty small in size.
That's good.
The media management database, it's all about those volumes.
Right.
So it's a relational database. It stores all the details about, where your backups are living
Okay.
on those tapes, disks, or optical media.
Makes sense.
And it's also relatively small, which is nice.
Yeah, that's good.
The client file index, CFI, this is where things can get a bit bulky. It's a file-based database. It stores all that metadata for granular recovery. So we're talking file names, directories, timestamps, the works. This one can grow quite large, especially if you're dealing with a lot of granular recoveries.
So it's important to keep an eye on that.
It is. And finally, we have the jobs database.
Okay.
This one's a relational database. Keeps track of all your jobs, their statistics. It's limited to 1 GB, so it's not going to get out of hand. But it does mean that older data gets overwritten as new jobs come in.
It's a balancing act.
It is, between keeping a record of everything and, managing storage space. But remember, understanding these databases, crucial for managing your networker environment effectively.
Okay, so we've got our daemons, we've got our databases covered.
Right.
But what about like security and licensing? Lesson 3 mentions Auth-C, NWUI, and the licensing model. What are all those?
Okay, so Auth-C, that's all about keeping your networker environment secure. It provides token-based authentication and single sign-on using SAML 2.0, which is great for, streamlining user access.
Yeah.
It can even integrate with external LDAP repositories,
Oh, wow.
which is handy for organizations with, centralized authentication systems.
Right, and then there's the NWUI,
Yeah.
that modern HTML5-based management interface.
Much better. It's
Yeah.
a far cry from the old Java-based NMC, thankfully deprecated now.
Oh, thank goodness.
NWUI is all about making, networker management more user-friendly, more accessible.
Good.
But, of course, we can't forget about licensing.
Right.
Networker uses a capacity-based licensing model,
Okay.
which means you really need to assess your environment carefully
Yeah.
and determine the appropriate license type.
So you got to do your homework.
You do,
Yeah.
before you jump into deploying Networker.
Right, right. And there are different options, right?
Absolutely. So you can choose between served licensing, which requires a dedicated license server,
Okay.
or unserved licensing, which is, simpler but limited to a single networker server. So the choice really depends on the scale and complexity of your environment.
Okay, so lesson 3 was definitely a deep dive
It was.
into the inner workings of Networker. But lesson 4 lightens things up a bit,
Yeah.
focusing on terminology.
Right. Think of it as learning the lingo, like the secret handshake of networker professionals.
Oh, okay.
Once you master these terms, you'll be able to, navigate the documentation, communicate effectively with your colleagues, and troubleshoot issues like a pro.
All right, so let's start with protection group.
Yeah.
What exactly does that mean in the Networker world?
Okay, so a protection group is simply a collection of clients, or save sets, that you want to protect together.
Okay.
It's a way of grouping related data for, easier management and backup scheduling.
So it's like creating a team
Yeah.
of data that needs to be backed up together. Makes sense.
Yeah.
What about workflow?
A workflow is a predefined list of actions that networker will execute during a backup or recovery operation.
Oh, okay.
Think of it as like a recipe for data protection,
Okay.
outlining the specific steps and parameters for each process.
So it's like a set of instructions
Exactly.
for a networker to follow. What about volume? I know that's a key concept in data backup.
It is. So a volume refers to the physical media where your backup data is stored.
Okay.
Could be a tape, a disk directory, or even an optical disk.
Gotcha.
It's the container for your precious backup data.
And then we have pool, which is like a collection of networker labeled volumes. It's a way of like organizing your storage media
Right.
for easier management.
Exactly. Now let's talk about save set. This is the specific unit of data that you are backing up.
Okay.
Could be a group of files, directories, or even application data.
So the save set is the actual data that needs protection. What about protection policy? How does that fit in?
Okay, so a protection policy is a set of workflows. They define how backups are handled for a specific protection group. So it dictates things like, backup frequency, retention periods, storage destination.
So the protection policy is like the rule book
Yes.
for backing up a specific group of data.
Yes.
What about the SAFE program? I know that's involved in the actual backup process.
Yes. So the SAFE program is the workhorse.
Okay.
Runs on the client and executes the backup process. It's the one that actually copies the data from the client to the storage node.
So it's doing the heavy lifting.
It is. A typical save program command might look like this. #save us Oslo home.
So that command would back up the home directory
Exactly.
on the client named Oslo.
Got it. Perfect.
But what's the difference between a save set and a save stream?
Oh, good question. They sound very similar.
They do.
So remember that the save set is the data you're backing up, while the save stream is the active process of copying that data.
Okay.
Think of it this way. The save set is the blueprint. The save stream is the construction process.
I think I'm starting to see the distinction.
Good.
And finally, what about resources?
Yes.
Lesson 4 mentions that term as well.
So in the networker world, a resource can be any configurable component.
Okay.
A client, a device, a group, you name it.
So they're the building blocks.
They are the building blocks of your networker environment.
Right. So we've tackled the terminology. Now for the main event.
Yes.
Lesson 5.
Yep.
The networker backup workflow.
This is where it all comes together.
This is where it all comes together.
Exactly. This lesson walks you through, step by step, the process of a networker backup.
Cool.
Uses a handy diagram from the source material as a visual guide.
Perfect.
And we're going to see how all those daemons we discussed work together to ensure your data is safely backed up.
It's like watching a perfectly choreographed dance of data protection.
That's a great way to put it.
So let's break it down, starting with a server initiating a scheduled backup.
All right, so remember those server-side daemons, nsrjob and nsrect? They are the key players in this initial step.
Okay.
So nsrjob kicks things off by scheduling the backup, while nsrect handles that communication with the client.
Right.
And of course, we can't forget the save command,
Right.
which is the actual program that executes the backup on the client.
So the server is like the conductor.
Yes.
Sending out the instructions to the different musicians
I like that analogy.
in the orchestra.
So now, once the server gives the signal, that save command on the client springs into action.
Okay.
But it doesn't just start copying data willy-nilly. First, it needs to communicate with the server
Okay.
to request backup support.
So it's like saying, hey, server, I'm ready to be backed up.
Yeah,
Can you provide me with the necessary resources?
exactly. And the server, specifically that NSR daemon, the head honcho,
Right.
receives this request and consults the enter SNMD daemon.
Okay.
This daemon is like the matchmaker,
A match.
responsible for pairing that backup request with the appropriate storage node.
Oh, like checking a dating profile to find the perfect storage location
Exactly.
for the incoming data.
So the NSRSNMD daemon, it takes into account, things like configuration information, storage node availability, and the attributes of that save request
Okay.
to find the best fit.
So it's all about finding that perfect match.
It is.
Now, once the ideal storage node is identified,
Yeah.
the answer daemon gives the green light to the client, directing it to send its data to that designated storage node's NSRMD daemon.
It's like the server saying, okay, client, you're good to go. Send your data over to this storage node. It's all set up, ready to receive your precious cargo.
And with that instruction, the client's NSRXA daemon takes over,
Right.
pushing the data to the storage node's NSRMD daemon.
It's a push-based model where the client takes the initiative and manages that data transfer, but it's not a one-way street. Remember, the client also needs to send tracking information.
Oh, right. We don't want to lose track of what's being backed up
Exactly.
and where it's going.
As the client's NSREX daemon is, busy sending data to that storage node, it's also sending tracking information
Okay.
to the client file index, the CFI,
Right.
which is managed by the server's NSRindex daemon.
So it's like keeping a detailed travel log
I love it.
of the data's journey,
That's a great way to put it.
noting every stop along the way.
This tracking information is vital for, granular recovery, allowing you to restore individual files or directories.
It's like having a GPS tracker for your data.
Yes,
So you always know where it is and how to get it back.
precisely. And while all of this is happening on the client side, that storage node's NSRMMD daemon is hard at work,
Okay.
receiving the incoming data, writing it to the designated volume.
It's like the storage node is saying, bring it on. I've got plenty of space to accommodate all your valuable data.
And to keep everything in sync, the storage node's NSRMD daemon also sends tracking information back to the server, specifically to the media database managed by the server's NSRMMDD daemon.
So both the client and the storage node are reporting back to the server, keeping it in the loop.
Exactly. It's this beautifully choreographed system where every player knows their part, and they execute it flawlessly to ensure your data is safe and sound.
Okay, so we've witnessed the intricate dance of a networker backup workflow. It's a complex process, but understanding this workflow is key to mastering networker.
Absolutely. Once you grasp the roles of the different daemons, how they interact, you'll be able to troubleshoot issues, optimize your backups, and ensure that your data is always protected.
Okay.
So we've reached the end of Lesson 5. We've covered a lot of ground, but hopefully you're feeling more confident
Yeah.
and prepared to tackle the world of DellEMC networking.
From its origins, key functions, to its architecture, terminology, and backup workflows.
Right.
We've explored all the essential elements that make Networker such a powerful and versatile data protection solution.
But before we wrap up this module, there's one crucial aspect we can't overlook.
Oh, what's that?
The homework assignment.
This isn't just busy work, folks.
No.
Remember that DellEMC Specialist Implementation Engineer certification for Networker version 8.0.
Yeah.
The homework for Module 5 is all about getting you familiar with that certification description.
Think of it as like a sneak peek behind the curtain of the exam, you know?
Oh, okay.
You get to see what skills and knowledge are assessed, the types of questions you might encounter,
Great.
and the resources that are available to help you prepare.
And the best part is, you don't have to do this alone.
No, you don't.
Module 5 has a group activity where you can connect with other students and the instructors
Yes.
in the Telegram group.
It's like a super-powered study group.
I like it.
You can like bounce ideas around, ask those burning questions,
Yeah.
learn from each other's experiences, and the instructors will be there to offer guidance and feedback.
That's awesome.
So it's a fantastic opportunity to really solidify your understanding.
So as you're digging into that certification description, keep those Module 5 takeaways front and center.
Yeah.
Like, how would you apply what you've learned about Networkers' functions, architecture, workflows to real-world scenarios?
That's the real test, isn't it? Like, how can you leverage Networkers' capabilities to protect your organization's most valuable asset, their data?
It's true.
That's what this certification is all about.
And think about it. Whether you go for this certification or not,
Yeah.
like actively engaging with this material, it makes you a more valuable asset to any organization using Networker.
Because knowledge is one thing, but being able to apply it, to troubleshoot, to optimize, that's where the magic happens.
That's the real deal. So there you have it. Module 5, demystified.
We did it.
We covered a lot of ground. But hopefully you're feeling more confident and prepared to tackle the world of DellEMC Networker.
Keep exploring, keep experimenting, and keep those data protection skills sharp.
And remember, we're here to support you on your Networker journey.
Absolutely.
So until next time, happy learning.